a lot of what we're interested in doing is really supporting the nervous system, and the nervous system really determines about how we feel, how we experience. And very much our tendency is to be in the kind of the pre-programmed nervous system. So, you know, quite often we have experiences that are in the moment, and the nervous system pulls us back into kind of learned reactive patterning. So our practice is this idea of how do we explore accessing more of that present moment quality within ourselves. How do we begin to access that deeper quality of presence within ourselves? So that, in a sense, can then begin to override some of the programs that pull us back into the old patterns that will tend to be kind of associated with kind of wounding and this idea or this feeling of, you know, where the moment really becomes a kind of a way of wallowing or getting consumed by the past that we haven't processed. So a lot of our work is really working with the nervous system in a way that it supports really a rebalancing of our nervous system. Our nervous system is the software that we see and experience the world through. And a lot of the time we're just, you know, we haven't updated the software, in a sense, you know, to use an analogy. So our practice is about clearing the system out. And in one sense, then we could even say the idea that then our nervous system is open to download new software. So the idea that our nervous system can run on old programs that aren't really connected to being alive in a way, to this moment. They're kind of stuck in something old. And then the nervous system has this incredible capacity to be linked in more of the time. I could say all of the time. And that's certainly something that we access occasionally and we would aspire to. But I'd say it's probably fair to say for most of us, all of us, you know, there's certainly times where we're just stuck in our stuff. And our practices are a way of supporting us in expanding our vision, expanding our awareness, beginning to see more clearly, and utilizing our capacity, what it is to be a human being. And the idea is that we're in this human contracted form, and yet there's a doorway to everything. That there is in a sense, a universal wisdom. You know, we've lots of different terms and words and ideas around that, but this universal wisdom, this universal knowing that we're invited to explore. Like there's this gorgeous little story about Krishna when he was a child, having stolen a sweet and his mother going, you know, and demanding he give the sweet back, and him kind of refusing and refusing and refusing, till eventually she made him open his mouth and she looked inside to grab the sweet. And as she looked inside, she saw everything. She saw the entire universe. And actually the story goes that she was kind of stunned or blown away, or it was too much for her to handle. And Krishna had to, they say he tapped her on the forehead to kind of give her the cloak again, the covering, you know, the illusion of our smallness. And that we're in this game, and these practices are absolutely an opportunity to begin to feel, what we're capable of moving through our systems, what we're capable of moving through our systems. And one of the reasons that we, you know, again, the idea of we get used to feeling particular things, experiencing particular things, and our system then needs time to begin to transition to being able to hold the, let's say, the richer or the stronger capacity of this kind of higher frequency of life force. So it's even like the idea of electrical charge. It's a stronger electrical charge that moves through our systems. And, you know, quite often there's practices in which people will blow their systems. You know, the systems will kind of, you know, there's different, lots of different modalities that can be very strong. And what we're trying to do through our practice is move slowly and steadily. So we're trying to attune all those different parts, the awareness, the breath, the body, and move them all together. So they're all moving slowly forward as a system, as a team. And in that way, there's a kind of a degree of safety around what we're doing. But also to really, you know, and I kind of mentioned this at the end of last week, you know, that we are in this process of shifting and changing. And it's so easy for us to forget that, to kind of get lost in the, you know, the regularity of our experience. the day in, day outness of our experience. We forget to think of ourselves as these fluid, unfolding beings, you know, or unfolding consciousnesses, that we are, you know, we're exploring how we begin to really unfold ourselves, how we know ourselves in different ways, how we can experience ourselves in different ways. And one side of that is it's, you know, it requires some effort, it requires some quality of discipline, and it has a challenge to it in that respect. But then the other side of it is, and as well, you know, it's about exploring the unknown. So part of us will be invested in not doing that. There will be resistance because part of us is invested in, let's not change anything because that's safe. So we're meeting that place again and again throughout our practice, the place that just doesn't want things to change because it's safer. That, at least that's the story. And then the beautiful, or the kind of the more expansive aspect or side of it is that, you know, what we're exploring is a deepening of our capacity to experience the richness of what it is to be alive. You know, and that's something that can be at times in short supply, not only maybe in our own lives, but in our society, in our modern world. You know, that vitality, that juiciness of life, that sense of being really vibrantly alive can really be a tricky thing to feel. We just, you know, we get so used to the kind of the protective mechanisms in our life that, you know, we're kind of not told about ways in which we can explore opening or unfolding or letting go of old ways of being, so we can then begin to clear the space for new information, for new connection, for new experience to drop in. So the practice and this work has an at-sea-ness to it. You know, there are moments when we will feel a little at sea or a little lost because we're letting go of one way of knowing ourselves, one way of knowing life, to open to something new. Yeah? Okay, so I'm just going to read just a couple of paragraphs. This is a book called Exquisite Love. And it's a really beautiful book, and it works on what they call the Bhakti Sutras. And Bhakti, one of the definitions of Bhakti is devotional love. And a lot of yoga practice would work around this idea of Bhakti, of the practice itself being in some way a way in which we offer love, like an actual way in which we begin to work with love as a very real, dynamic experience in our lives. So it's a very interesting take on the sutras, and the sutras are, you know, some of the oldest information around that yoga practices are based on. A lot of yoga wisdom is based on these sutras, Patanjali's sutras. So, although we may not always be aware of it, every sound has its origin in silence. The pulse of Nada Badram itself moves, so this is the idea of the pulse of life itself, moves across the unfolding fabric of this divine stillness. You might think for a moment of a painting. There can be many colors, many shapes, many textures, many patterns of visual movement in the painting. Yet all of these things rest on an empty canvas, without which there would be no painting whatsoever. That formless emptiness holds the possibility to become any form imaginable. The same is true of sound. Anything that we hear is grounded in silence, which gives rise to and stands within all sounds. Everything at all that comes into existence does so out of the great emptiness, Mahashunya, which is absolute silence. Just as the great emptiness has become all things and thus dwells within all things, so too silence lies within all sound. Therefore, the more we become attentive to silence, the more we thereby immerse ourselves in the infinite and formless Mahasunya, the formless home of the beloved beyond all form. As a yogi or yogini, be attentive to the way in which all sounds not only arise from, but also dissolve into infinite spaciousness. Dwell in that spaciousness. Listen consistently to the silence that supports all things. There you will hear the sound of the self's own voice. It goes on to talk about meditating and the idea that when we make sound, we take time, or when we're doing practice, which is what we're doing, we take time both at the beginning and the end, and woven through the practice to really, and what we're doing is we're cultivating our relationship to silence. So, you know, most of us have a fairly limited relationship with silence because, of course, so much of our lives has to be around the noise, the doing, the moving, the story, all of the stuff that's continually shifting and changing. And the silence connects us to that part that is eternal, that part that isn't moving or shifting. It's that deeper place. Sometimes the idea, you know, in Buddhism, they talk about emptiness, this idea of emptiness, the void. And in Tantra, they have another slant, and they talk about the pregnant void. And it's the idea that, you know, one analogy that was given to me when I was practicing was this idea of the primordial soup, that everything arises. It's like this formless, you know, potentiality of everything, and everything arises from it. All of the story, all of our lives, all of the planets, everything arises from this and dissolves back into this. And what we end up getting caught up in is really the form itself becomes so much of our experience of being human. And it's limited in terms of our capacity to really experience profound contentment or profound joy. So the invitation of our practice is exploring ways in which we can access or drop into deeper layers. Yeah, it's not as if we're dropping right into that quality of emptiness necessarily, but we're dropping into deeper layers, and our practices are pathways in that process, in that journey. So as we're moving through our practice, and particularly as we're beginning our practice, of course, you know, at the beginning we come in with all the things that we've got going on for us, which is the noise, the story. And what we will tend to connect to or become aware of, particularly as we very kind of overtly quieten things, like we've come into a quiet space, we'll get still in a few moments, and we'll stop talking, and or at least I'll stop talking, and we'll begin to tune into the breath. And what we'll notice as we're doing that is the noise, all of that stuff that's churning around and moving around inside of us, that so often dominates our experience of self. Maybe not in a conscious sense, but certainly unconsciously. And when we begin to purposefully bring quiet back into the experience, that's what tends to pop up. So the invitation, particularly as we begin, is to allow, to let yourself be wherever you are. It's important that, you know, we can, through our practices, drop the idea of needing to be something or be somewhere, and really learn how to meet ourselves where we are and give ourselves permission. And this is the greatest gift, the greatest tool I've certainly learned throughout my journey and my practices. You know, a lot of the time when I was learning and practicing and doing these, you know, initiations, it would be about having to achieve something. And really we miss the point when we're focused on getting somewhere. And even as we close the eyes and we begin to quieten, there's part of us that wants to experience quietness, and we'll hear the noise and be disappointed. So I really encourage you just to let whatever is there be there, and let the part of you that knows that's perfect speak up a little, even if you have to say it to yourself. And if you notice something that's strong, so as you quieten down and you notice something that's in there that's moving or churning, or there's a sound, or it's external, whatever it is that comes to your awareness, what you do is internally you quietly name it to yourself. Or if you're in a space on your own, you can say it. Oh, look, there's anger, or there's frustration, or there's me pissed off at him, or there's me. Just name it quietly to yourself. And what that begins to do is kind of allows what it is that's moving through you to kind of be parked a little. So we're, in a sense, we're kind of learning how to separate all of the stuff that's moving around us. We're clearing that path to be able to drop deeper into what is intrinsically in there, which is this deep quality of stillness. But we've got to meet all the stuff that sits on top of it first. And we've got to learn how to be with all of that and allow all of that and let ourselves be where we are. Okay, so enough talking. So we're sitting as comfortably as you can, sitting up if possible. Okay. And then whatever you're sitting on, and feel free to sit on a chair or sit, be comfortable. We're going to sit for a few minutes. Let your belly relax. Take a few deeper breaths. Have a little kind of shrug through the shoulders. Just notice the body. Just feel into the body for a moment. And then let things begin to settle. Just let things begin to settle. The hands can rest. You can rest them on the thighs. You can rest one on top of the other. You can choose what feels the most comfortable for you. And then we close our eyes. And initially, it's just noticing how you are. Just noticing how things are in this moment. It's almost like you're closing the eyes to look inward with a kind of a curiosity. How am I doing? Just to notice the breath as it is. Notice what's going on for you, what's moving through you. Notice if any tension is there for you, if you notice anywhere that draws your attention. So our tendency and our pattern, and this is to do with the nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, is to kind of get more easily pulled toward contraction as an experience. So it's important just to notice that overtly, in a sense, just to notice where is the attention drawn to, what are you noticing, what's there for you this afternoon. And this is the game, is that we've got to meet and allow what is there to be there. And it's a way of beginning to diffuse this habit, this kind of energetic pull of the tighter experiences of our lives being the biggest noise or the biggest story for us. And this is the part that so many people are unwilling to do, and it's just difficult to do, to really meet. And as you continue to do this, your sensitivity, your awareness will become more acute. You'll go to deeper layers of holding and deeper patterns and older holdings. But as you begin to bring them into that light of awareness, into the consciousness, and you meet them with what we're talking about, this idea of what essentially is a kindness, an allowing, an acceptance. And you might find sometimes you'll meet things and the acceptance isn't accessible for you. And even just to notice that or know that. Sometimes we'll meet places that we just do want it to be another way. And so we're acknowledging whatever might be there for us this afternoon. Notice the thoughts that pop up as you're doing this work. And then to bring the attention back toward the breath, just to notice the breath. So the breath has, in a sense, if you think of it, the breath, there's no story. It's not connected to the past. It's nothing to do with the future. It's just here in this moment. It's very unassuming, very plain, no drama. So as we tune into the breath, it's like we can tune into that quality within ourselves. Think of that as the part of us that there's no story, no drama, just here, very simple. Nothing other than just this moment, the simplicity of the experience, where in one sense, we let everything else drop away. Like imagine that as a state. As you notice the breath, it's beginning to support this part that can simply be here. And yes, we allow everything else that's there to be there. And still there can be this place with the breath, just noticing the breath. And although the tendency is this practice will be interrupted by thoughts, by feelings, and that's perfect. We don't knock any of that down. We don't push any of that away. But we do, when we become aware, just come back to the breath. And you might have a couple of breaths, very simple, and something comes in, and you come back to the breath. And you're just observing, you're witnessing this dance. So we're just going to literally pause with this for a minute, and then we're going to change and work with the breath in a different way. Now, very comfortably, we begin to deepen the breath. If you can breathe through the nose, do that. Almost as if the breath were in slow motion. And you only breathe as deeply as it feels comfortable to do. So yes, there's an expanding in the lungs, but just to the point that it feels comfortable. And then let the exhalation also be slow and comfortable. And just be close to this breath. Stay with your breath. Slow, long, deep breath. the top of the next inhalation, could you pause for a couple of moments? Again, whatever feels comfortable. Maybe a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And then the exhalation begins really gently. And inhaling, pausing at the top of the inhalation. And then can you also bring a pause to the end of the exhalation? Stay with your breath. So after the next exhalation, take that moment to pause and then let the breath return to its natural rhythm. Okay, perfect. And as you come back to your natural rhythm, we're going to stand up. We're going to take our time. We're going to come to standing. Okay. So just some simple stuff. Let's do this first. 2 feet are about hip distance. They're parallel. We're just going to take the arms and we're going to wrap the arms around us. We're going to try to get the hands onto the ribs. So you're holding the sides of the ribs. And then just taking some deep breaths and really just feeling that space you're holding primarily. Just feeling as you inhale how the ribs expand outward, as you exhale they release inward. You can kind of squeeze in a little with the arms so the ribs have a little bit more work to do. And as you're filling the ribs up, as the ribs are pressing out, could you have a little shrugging through the shoulders? Do you also feel a sense of the length from the waist all the way up to the armpits? Idea of just lengthening, opening, expanding. A little shrug. All of this is simple. Let's lean over to the right. Come back to center, deep breath. We'll go in the other direction. And we come on back. Deep breath. Let's go to the first side. We come back, big breath, fill it up again. Second side one more time. And then we come all the way back and we'll release the arms. Okay, a little shrug through the shoulders. So what do we'll take the left hand behind our back and slide it up the back to wherever it goes to. And then the right arm kind of comes up. And the hands connect, but if they don't connect, that's perfect. The fingers are pointing toward each other. And the first thing to do is just to breathe into the places where the hands are. Try to breathe into the back. You notice it's not easy to move that space as you breathe. It's not used to moving, articulating. And then just staying here, but the top elbow just begins to stretch a little bit more upward toward the ceiling. So from the hip to the elbow, there's that lengthening and stretching, not so much that you're straining. Notice if your head is jutting forward, I want you to see, can it come back to a neutral position? Might be a little tricky with the position of the arm, but whatever you can do. Stretch up. And then wherever, so if you've got the right elbow up, I want you to arc to the left a little. Just a little bit more lengthening. And again, wherever you're noticing tension, you breathe. The same principle to what we were doing when we were sitting down and we were noticing the internal noise. Same stuff that we're meeting in a different form. And then we'll come on back and we'll release. And we can have a little shrug through the shoulders and we'll go to the second side. And the first thing is you go to whatever's available. Maybe the hands connect or not. And we just breathe into the back. And just breathe into the back. Take your time. And then that top elbow begins to stretch a little higher. And wherever you're noticing the tension, maybe it's in the arm or the shoulder or the ribs, wherever it is, just give it time. And then we're going to begin to arc in the opposite direction of the top shoulder or the top elbow. And enjoy again what you're meeting. Maybe you go an inch and you pause and breathe and feel and notice. Three, two, one. Nice work. And we'll release. Okay. So if we were to bring a little attention down to the feet, we're going to see if we can do a little work in the feet. Now there's a few options. We'll try this one out first. We come on to the top. Let's say we work with the right foot first. We come on to the toenails of the right foot. So we come on to the top of the foot. Now, you might want to have a hand on a wall or something to support you, balance you. And it's good to have something soft underneath the foot so you're not on a hard floor. Now, the tricky bit is trying to get the weight slightly forward so we're not just in the toes, but we can bring some weight to the front of the foot. And for that to happen, you've got to go a little deeper in the standing leg. You've got to kind of come into a little bit of a squatting position. So you feel the stretch along the top of the foot and up through the front of the ankle and the shin. That's where we want to begin to wake up. And you might be able to let the weight drop over to the little toe and then roll into the big toe. And you're just exploring some of the, again, the holding patterns. This is, again, the same principle, same idea, is that we're learning where we're holding, and we're also refining the way in which we meet those places. So it's not a forcing, we're not rushing past it. We're meeting it, we're breathing, we're pausing, we're allowing. So just to breathe into what you're meeting, have a little explore with the foot. Take your time. And then release that side. And even if you were to pause, even that little bit of work, notice the difference in the 2 feet. It's amazing as our body begins to open up, and which is just experiencing it in the way it's designed to be experienced. There's so much more of a sense of anchoring, connection, space, lightness. So second side. And again, maybe you bend the standing leg and you sink a little deeper into the pose. Keep breathing, stay with it. Yeah, move around, feel into it. Again, trying to get the weight past the toes to the top of the foot. And that's the tricky bit. That's why this particular version's a little awkward. Trying to get the weight off the knuckles of the toes. We're going to do a little bit more work with our feet from a different position in a while. And then let that go. And again, just come back to the 2 feet on the floor. Move a little in the toes. Just see, can you even look down and can you spread the toes out? Can you really try to open the toes up? And lay them all down. And then very simple, the toes are going to stay anchored as best you can. You might notice they want to lift or move. And you're just noticing their habits if that happens. We just lift the heels up and down. Very simple, just up and down. So the front of the feet, balls of the toes, pads of the toes, they're learning to really wake up and do their job. And it's like, again, this idea that we're just accessing more of ourselves. It's a really interesting play, you know, this idea of form and formless, of the seen, the visible and the invisible. And you know, for us, experiencing a deeper sense of the two begins to create a sense of contentment or well-being in our lives. But our tendency when we don't have access, or when we feel like we don't have access, or an experience of the deeper unseen, is part of the seen stuff stops working. It goes into that protective, tightened mode. Okay, so we'll let the heels stay down. We're going to try to keep the weight slightly forward in the 2 feet. So the heels are a little lighter. You might want to use a support here. I'm going to take my left ankle over my right thigh. So it's just beginning to bring a bit of work into that left hip. I'm going to keep my gaze forward as best I can. The weight is still in the front of the bottom foot. And then I'm going to see, can I just take my groins back, my hips back, and I stick my bum out a little. So I'm trying to stay long in the belly. I'm trying to keep the gaze forward to the horizon. I go to whatever feels accessible. There's a lot of work in the legs for this. You need a break, you take a break. Again, keep the weight forward in the standing foot. If you've got the left hand free, it's on the inside of the left knee, which is kind of the part that's facing the ceiling in this position. Without moving anything, push the knee up into the hand, build a little resistance between the arm and the leg. Begin to sit the bum back a little further, like you're really trying to stick your bum out. So it's taking the thigh bone and taking it deeper into your hip socket. Breathe for 3. Maybe you could hover the bottom heel for 2, for 1, and then we'll come out. We'll come out. Okay, great. So whatever's accessible, you know, you can hop off the bus at any point. Second side, so we're crossing the right ankle over the left thigh. Again, hand on the wall for support if need be, makes it easier. The weight stays forward in the standing leg, and then it's trying to move from the groins first. The tendency is the belly wants to tighten, and that creates a particular position we're not looking for. We want to stay long, the gaze stays forward, and you're trying to get the pelvis to go back first. So you can maintain the arch in your lower back. So we're trying to isolate the movement to the hips. And this actually opens up the channel of information or energy that move through the top and bottom of the body. Now, maybe you can have the hand on the inside of the lifted knee and you can push the knee up and it just builds a little bit more engagement. Maybe, don't force, you can lift the bottom heel off the floor. For 3, for 2, for 1, and again, we'll release. Okay, we're going to go back to the first side. Take your time, left ankle over right thigh. And we begin to sit the bum back, really paying attention to the part that's moving. Pelvis is what's moving. So groins are going back, buttocks moving back. I'm maintaining the length in the belly. So I'm not shortening the belly to drop the top of the body downward. It's almost as if from the waist, from the ribs, you're staying elevated or buoyant or full. Remember that work we did holding the ribs? Weight forward in the bottom foot, knee pressing up into hand, bum really trying to stick it out, trying to push the bum back. So we in the West just don't do this type of work, you know, in our day-to-day movement with our pelvis, whereas in other places in the world, you know, this squatting kind of position is very normal. And it's amazing that this squat can heal so much of what ails us in terms of how we use our bodies. For 3, for 2, for 1, we release. Second side. Take your time as you sit into the pose, whatever feels available. Knee pressing up into hand, bum sticking out. Breathe. Breathe. 3, 2, 1. And again, we release. Beautiful, great. So we're going to come on to the hands and knees now. So let's come all the way down to hands and knees. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll come straight down onto our forearms and just interlace the fingers. We'll keep the elbows under the shoulders. We'll slide the knees back just an inch or 2 and let the lower back and belly begin to drop or relax a little if you can. Let the hips sway a little. Now, most of you will notice a little tightening around the lower back. Could you find that space and breathe into it? So you let the hips sway. Maybe we let the shoulders shrug a little. Could the breath get a little deeper and a little longer? Notice as you take those deep breaths, there's a kind of a buoyancy that's felt in the body. It's a really interesting experience, that quality of buoyancy, to get used to it, to learn how to find it, how to maintain it and foster it. That we might be tuning into it here in terms of the physical experience, but actually that quality of buoyancy, you know, What does it conjure up in terms of our mental experience, our emotional experience, if we were buoyant? There's a kind of a lightness, a supportedness. Hips are swaying. Very simple here. Notice where your head is. Could you move the neck and head a little too? Just very simple, very easy. Maybe we could press the forearms down a little bit more firmly so it kind of begins to create a little lift in the back. Think of the space between the shoulder blades broadening, widening. As you press the earth away, breathe into that space of the back. Obviously, this requires some level of effort, but you can also do it in a way that you're not going to burn out or it's not overly taxing. Lower back belly is just relaxing. Hips are swaying a little. Yeah, a few more rounds of breath here. Okay. We're not going to move anything, but what if we were to push the two knees away from each other, just to feel what happens in your hips as you do that, without moving the legs? Press the two knees away from each other. And at the same time, without moving, could you pull the elbows toward each other? And then keeping all of those engagements, could you pull the elbows and knees toward each other? So just notice what's engaging. And again, I don't want you to burn out. So just maintain, if anything gets particularly tight, just breathe into that space. Breathe into that. Stay with that. Breathe 3, 2, 1. And then come all the way up to hands and knees again. All the way up to all fours. Great, okay. And on the hands and knees, you just take a moment again, just let the hips sway and lower back relax. Nice and fluid. A little shrugging through the shoulders as you take some deep breaths into the rib cage. Keep it simple. Feel. And then lower back is relaxed as best you can. Lower back is tricky for us. You know, for many of us, the lower back is a big overworker. It kind of takes the brunt of a lot of the protection in the body because it's one of the most mobile parts of the back. It ends up doing too much of the work. So sometimes in letting it relax and letting it let go, it's a process. You know, it doesn't want to do it. It's not used to doing it. It doesn't trust it's safe to do it. So you just breathe and as best you can invite the lower back and belly, that whole mid region, to soften. Think about all of the stories around that mid part of the body. It should be this way, it should be that way. You know, a lot of pressure on that part of the body. So just to let it soften and breathe as you let the hips sway. And then those comfortable deeper breaths into the sides of the ribs again, into the back of the ribs. Just noticing these spaces, letting the shoulders shrug a little. That's it, very simple. Enjoy the feeling in the body. Even just to be in the body in a more conscious way, in a fuller way. To be in the body is incredibly beneficial for us, for our overall well-being. Breathe and feel and notice. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Perfect. And then just coming back to center. So we're going to do a little work with our hands first, just because we're on the hands and the wrists. So if we come on to the right hand, so we can lift the left hand, we can make a fist with the left hand. So the thumb is over the fingers. Now, when you do this work, I want you to try to keep the fist. So as you're doing the stretch, the hand is going to want to open up. Don't let it do that. And that'll determine how far the work will go, or the stretch will go. You turn the fingers to face your leg, and you put the hand on the mat or on the floor. Now, the metacarpal knuckles, those knuckles that connect the finger to the palm or to the hand, they're where most of the weight is. And those knuckles stay on the mat. And then keeping those knuckles down, can you begin to let the back of your wrist tilt downward toward the floor? Now, you mightn't get very far before it feels very tight. I don't want you to force. You go to whatever feels available. You can bring the weight over to the index finger side. You can bring it over to the little finger side. The elbow can be bent. And you're just exploring, like we were doing with our feet. You're just exploring and noticing where is holding, where is the tightness in the hand, wrist, forearm. And again, the idea of as you meet it, just breathe, take your time, be sensitive with yourself, be kind to yourself. You got it. Stay with it. Just move it around. So it's a little game. It's a balance between the effort, the discomfort, the work, and also your capacity to kind of almost relax with it, breathe with it. You think of kindness as a quality, as a kind of texture. Kindness has a space to it, has an allowing to it. Just move around and feel. There's no rush. Beautiful. And then as you come on back and release that hand and just take it off the floor, open and close it, shake it out a little. And then as you put it back on the earth, just feel the two hands like we did with the feet. Notice the difference, the different quality in that hand you've worked with. And then let's do the same work with the second side, second hand. So you make a fist, thumb over fingers, you turn the fingers to face you. The weight stays in those metacarpal knuckles, those knuckles at the base of the fingers. And then you're pulsing the back of the hand. And just moving around and feeling and noticing. And when you find a tight spot, could you pause and just breathe there for a few moments? You know, the tissue in your body, the physical body structure, it takes a little time to unravel itself. Keep breathing. That's it, stay with it. That's it, stay with it. Perfect. And then let's just shake that side out as well. Okay. Just shake it out, open and close it. Perfect. Now from here, we're going to take the left arm and we're going to slide it over to the right. So we're bringing the left shoulder and the side of the head toward the floor. Now, some of you, they might come down to the floor and rest on the floor. Some of you, they're going to hover above the floor. Wherever you are, you'll notice that twist and the broadening of the back. And that's the place I want you to focus on and breathe into. Breathe into what you're meeting. Yeah, breathe into what you're meeting. Breathe into it. Perfect. And then let's come on back. And then take your time moving the other direction, other side. Nice work. Breathe into that. Perfect. And again, come on back. Okay. Now, as you come back, we're going to take the left leg forward. Take the left leg forward. Okay. So we can do a few things with the leg forward. So that left foot, we just slide it slightly forward of the knee. So the ankle is a little bit in front of the knee. Okay. If you can look back at the back foot, I want you to make sure that the back foot isn't sickling. So the back big toe wants to tilt in. I want you to stretch back along the big toe so it looks like a straight line from the inner knee to the big toe. Okay? And then in the 2 feet, can you spread the toes and just feel the front of the feet, feel the top of the feet begin to activate. And as you do that, you're pressing the toes down. So it's the toenails of the back foot and the pads of the front foot. So we're just seeing, can we work the feet? And that begins to create a reaction through the legs and up into the hips. So stay with that. Deep breath into the rib cage, little shrug through the shoulders, gazes forward, and then slowly we're going to let the hips begin to melt forward. Now, we might go a little bit, need some tension, pause and breathe and give it time. And you go to whatever feels accessible for you, whatever feels available. Try to keep the gaze forward. If your back knee is sensitive, you have a few choices. You can pad the back knee with something, but the more the back foot works, the less pressure will be on that back knee. That's it. You got it. So you just go to whatever feels available. We're just going to pause for a few rounds here. Breathe. Wherever you're noticing the tension, leg, hip, wherever it might be, imagine you could breathe into that space. So again, it's learning to meet these contracted spaces, these holdings in our life. Breathe into what you're meeting. Great. Stay with it for 3, for 2. And then let's bring the hips back. We're going to keep the left leg forward, but we're going to just bring the foot back a little so the leg is at a right angle. Okay? And then from here, can we take the 2 hands to the base of the bum? So we hold the base of the buttocks. You'll notice the left side, the front leg side will be working, the right side maybe not as much. So if we were to try to get the 2 sides engaging or expanding, we begin to sit the bum back. Now, as the bum goes back, the hips themselves are moving back, and the upper body is just leaning forward a little as the hips move. It's almost as if it's one movement. Bum goes back. Now, you go to whatever feels accessible, and then we're just going to take the arms down toward the floor in front of us. Yeah? So just pointing down. Now, we're not going to bring the hands all the way down, so we're not tightening the belly or dropping the upper body. Fingers will probably be above the floor. And then I want you to have that left arm on the inside of the leg. And I want you to push the arm and leg together. A little bit of resistance, little bit of resistance. Just something you can sustain. And at the same time, the idea of sticking your bum out even more. Could you stick the bum out? Could you let the hands slide a little deeper as you do that? Just explore what's available. But I want you to stay long in the front of your body, not to just drop the head and look down, but to try to keep length and openness in the front of the body. Breathe now. Keep pressing hand and or arm and leg together. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. and we'll come all the way up. Okay, one more thing in this side. We're going to keep that leg forward. One more thing. So we've got the left leg forward. Can we bring the right hand down, bring it over to the right a little, and we're going to grab the left ankle and see, can we bring it back? So we cross the left ankle over the back leg or the back thigh. So the foot's still on the floor. You can see my foot, sole of the foot still on the floor. That left knee will lean a little bit to the left. We can bring that left hand to the inside of the knee again. Maybe you want to bring your right hand a little further to the right if that feels comfortable. Okay, now here, the toes in that front foot, they grip. And that creates tone through the foot, up through the leg. Without moving anything, push your knee back into your hand. So press the left knee in, kind of moving toward the midline of the body. Just a little resistance. At the same time, could you stick your bum out? So a sense of, even if you imagine in your mind's eye, the sitting bones in the hip socket are moving back and apart. They're widening apart as you stick the bum out. And you just breathe into it. This is a big stretch on the outside of that left hip. And one more thing, if possible, could we lean back so that left arm might get a little straighter? Lean back a little. And wherever you're noticing it, breathe into it. Breathe 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we'll soften and we'll release that leg. We come up and we'll take the right leg forward. Okay? So the first one we did was we brought the right foot ankle a little forward of the knee. Okay, again, notice the 2 feet on the floor, spread the toes, anchor the feet into the earth. So very practical ways of accessing kind of safety for the system, feeling the solidness of the floor, letting the body almost become part of that. And then from here, first we'll take a deep breath, a little shrug and lengthening of the ribs and shoulders. Gazes forward, and in your own time then let the hips begin to melt forward. Feel free to pause anywhere that it feels appropriate to do that. You just take your time, really, as you feel into it. We get better and better at listening to the body. So often the mind gets in the way and it kind of determines where we should go, how we should get there, how long it should take. And the body can often be working at a different cycle, a different system. So to just feel and notice. And if it feels appropriate to sink further, great. And if not, that's great too. That's it. You just stay with this for a few breaths. Keep the 2 feet active. Again, if the back knee is sensitive, work the back foot a little bit more or pad the back knee if need be. Perfect. And then we're going to slowly bring it back. So we come back to right angles with the 2 legs. Remember what we did then? We held the base of the glutes. So it's kind of the base of the buttocks, top of the hamstring. That's the area we're interested in moving. And it's really interesting, when we refine these little movements in the body, it offers so much in terms of these different parts reconnecting and reopening, and movement even in things like blood through the body increases. So it's all about vitality and life force, moving, opening. So hold the base of the glutes. The bum presses back into the hands. So it's the first thing that moves. And the leaning forward of the torso is simply a reaction to that. So you're not leaning forward too fast or leaning forward too far. Now you take the hips back as far as they'll go. Then we bring the arms just down in front of us. We've got the right arm on the inside of the leg. And they press together. Little resistance. It's not easy. I don't want you to force. As you're doing that, again, focusing on the pelvis, can you stick it back a little further? The answer might be no, and we stay where we are. Possibly sinking the front of the body a little deeper. Stay with the breath. Breathe into the tightness. So most of the work will be in that right hip. You just breathe into it. Imagine you could breathe right into that space. 3, 2, and then we are going to come all the way back up. Perfect, great, okay. So one last thing on this side. We bring the left hand down and over to the left. We hold the right ankle. We bring the foot to cross the ankle over the back thigh. Now, you might find this is enough. Pause here, and there's a big stretch already going on in the hip. We put the right hand on the inside of the knee pressing back into the hand. And just breathe here, breathe, and hop off anywhere it's appropriate to do that. Not about having to go further, having to force. You get anywhere you're meeting resistance in the body. It's great to just give yourself permission just to be with it. Such a powerful process to develop. Keep breathing, possibly leaning back a little further so the right arm might get a little straighter if that feels available. Long, deep, steady breath. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we're going to release that leg, let it go back, and we're back on the hands and knees. We're back on the hands and knees. And then as you come onto hands and knees, just close the eyes again. Let the hips sway, let the lower back relax. Just feel into this part of the body. Feel into particularly the hips, lower back. So much of what we end up doing, and part of it, you know, is a catch-22 with the body, is becoming these masters of limitation. You know, all of the limitation we carry in our physical body that we get used to and we call normal, and then as we explore opening, it's this experience of greater freedom that we've forgotten was there. And the same principles apply to all those aspects of our lives. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to come to sitting. If possible, we're sitting on the floor, if that's possible, on a brick if you have it, or a cushion, or a book will do. It can be interesting, you know, just for yourself, if sitting down, if you do that for practices, to play with the level that you bring the hips to. And you'll find it can be very, you know, it can be a couple of millimeters either side that will actually be a much more comfortable or uncomfortable position for you. So for each of us, it can be slightly different, particularly if sitting on the floor is something that you spend any time doing. 2 feet are in front of us. We're going to stretch the legs out a little. So we're on the heels. Can you see? You can't see my feet. Okay, you can see the top of my feet anyway. Knees are bent. See, I have the knees quite high, so they're higher than the crest of the hips. So it just makes it easier for us. So then in this position, I can more easily sustain the curves in the back. The tendency is if I go straight out with the legs, that stretch becomes so strong in the back of the legs that it tends to collapse the lower back. So I want to remedy that. I've got the feet hip distance. The 2 feet are pointing upward. I have my hands on the outside of my knees. I push my knees into my hands, just building a little bit of resistance. Now, as I do that, I'm going to try to keep that resistance. I'm going to lean over on my left butt, if that's possible, without falling off what you're on. So as the right butt gets lighter, it's almost like I want it to widen as I'm pressing the knees apart, and I bring it down and I lean on that side and I lean over so I can kind of let the other side again widen a little, and I go back to the first side. It's just like I'm trying to, as I do a little sway side to side, kind of widen one sitting bone, widen the other sitting bone, just exploring. And quite often, and come back to center, quite often for us, we get numb in these places because we're not used to feeling them. And there's a lot of, again, you know, ideas, taboos, issues around this whole, you know, pelvic area. So a lot of our practice is just clearing these things out, getting rid of them. Okay. Now, we're not going to move our feet, but I want you to look at the toes and curl them downward toward the floor. Curl them downward. And just notice the amount of effort you use to do that, and use 50% of that effort. 50%. So they're just curling in that general position, but very little effort. Okay, keep the feet there without moving them. Push the heels down, pull them towards you. Keep pressing the thighs and knees apart. So you're building this resistance through the legs, just what you can sustain. Yeah, so just enough effort you can sustain it. And then can you take a few deeper breaths, a little shrug through the shoulders, with the idea of almost pushing your bum down as a means for rising up through the rest of the body. Little shrug through the shoulders, maybe even leaning back a little to open up the belly again. If we're too far forward, the belly shortens, we round the back. Now, I want us to try to keep all of that going on. And we're going to twist to the left. So the right hand goes on the outside of the left knee, left hand fingers on the floor just behind us. We're trying not to change the feet, the legs, the hips as we do the twist. You're not forcing anything around. It's a very, whatever's available twist. So even the hand on the outside of the knee is not doing any work. Although the knees can still press apart. And you just breathe into the, you know, the waist and the ribs. So the twist is a great detoxifying. The twist is a great detoxifying position. Breathe into it. Breathe into it. Know where to get to. You don't have to go a certain amount or a certain distance. Long, deep breath. Breathe 3. Keep the feet active. Breathe 2. Keep pressing thighs apart. Now we're going to keep the legs active. We're going to come back to center, hands in that original space, either side of the knees. Press the knees apart. Another big, deep breath, a little shrug through the shoulders. Gaze maybe even slightly elevated, just above horizon. And we'll turn in the other direction, placing the hands. Let me just take a few breaths. Again, it doesn't matter how far you go. Wherever the tightness is, that's where your attention is. That's where you're breathing into. Breathe 3. Breathe 2. Perfect. We come back. We keep the legs active even as we come back. So we want to maintain the length. Now you'll feel areas in the hips getting a little tired. We'll see what we can do. Bring the left foot in closer. Put the 2 hands on the top of the left shin. So the left leg is a little closer. Now we could take the right leg maybe a little further away. But we're keeping a bend, 2 knees of a bend. Now the 2 feet, even though the left foot is fully on the floor, are going to do the same work that they were doing. So the toes curling in toward the floor, the feet pulling towards you, even the closer foot. And as you work the legs, deep breath, a little shrug through the shoulders, belly lengthens, sternum, heart lift a little. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Now we're going to see, we've got the left foot in. We're going to turn again to the left. Right hand holds the left knee, top of the shin. And we're turning, twisting again. Keep the 2 feet legs active. Breathe 3. Breathe 2. Inhale, come on back through center, and we'll just change the legs. We'll change the sides. Take your time. So even holding the top of that shin just takes a bit of work away. You just relax a little to begin. Okay. And then look at the 2 feet. Work from the toes. You've got the left heel on the floor, so that's what we call dig and drag action. You can use more the front of the closer foot to do the same engagement, same work. Again, deep breath into the ribs. lifting, lengthening, and then we're turning to the right, so the left hand is on the leg, on the shin, right fingertips lightly on the floor, kind of to the side or behind us. Try to keep the legs active. They're foundational. Deep breath into the ribs, twist to whatever feels available, and then just breathe there. That's it. Breathe. 3, 2. Nice. And then inhale, come on back. Okay, perfect. And then release the 2 legs. Okay, so we're going to sit cross-legged, if that's possible. And we're going to have the left leg foot in front of the right leg. Is that possible? I know these are tricky positions for us, but we do the best we can. Okay, so what if we were to take the left foot and just put it down in front of us, and as best we can, let the right leg, maybe it goes to the floor, maybe it hovers, but let it relax as best you can. Now, we're going to hold the left foot. Now, if you can't hold the little toe side of the foot, you can hold the ankle, yeah? So if it's too far away. But what I want you to do first, before you lift the heel or the foot off the floor, is pull the arm and leg against each other. Build a little bit of resistance. So that part of the body that's kind of bent forward to reach the foot can lift to whatever's available. Can lift to whatever's available. Okay, so you're trying to find the length that we've been working with in the front of the body, and that supports the curvature in the spine. And then we're going to see, can we lift our foot? I know this is a little tricky. Yeah. You can move your toes and say low. Yay. Okay. We're going to let the foot come a little closer to us, but we're not twisting the ankle. Can you see that in my screen? We're not twisting the ankle. So whatever think of the foot, ankle, lower leg as one piece of metal. So when one part moves, it all moves. 2 hands on the foot or the ankle, if that's easier. Yeah? Now, deep breath, little shrug in the shoulders. All of that wants to get short and tight in the front. I want you to lift it up. We're not going to move anything, but I want you to push your left foot toward the right without moving it. Push it into your hands. Press it to the right. Press it for 5, press it for 4, for 3, press for 2, press 1 more, and then let it go. Whew. Okay. Can we change the position of the legs? So now the right foot is in front. And we hold, and you see what I do with the arm? I take the arm on the inside of the leg, but I hold the outside of the foot. Inside of the leg, hold the outside of the foot. Okay, and again, before I lift the foot, I want to see, can I use resistance? So the arm pulling against the foot to lift me up, to open me up. Whatever's available, I breathe into the ribs. So I know the breath is a great way of expanding, moving bones apart, creating more elasticity, more blood flow. And then I lift the foot. And again, without bending the ankle, I see, can I bring it a little closer to the heart? 2 hands can hold the foot. Even this is a lot. Now, before I go anywhere else, can I tune into my buttocks, my hips? Can I press the bum down? So remember that idea of rooting down to kind of look for a little bit more rising. And then I'm pushing that right foot toward the left without moving. And I'm pressing it into the hands for 5, for 4, 3, 2, 1, and I release. Okay. Good news is we're nearly there. Bad news is we're going to do the first side again. Okay, first side again. So we're working with the left leg. But these are great. These are, again, there's so much accumulation in the pelvis. And a lot of it is what we come in with. Ancestrally, the pelvis and if you've grown up in this country, there's a whole shame and story around sexual organs and, all of that stuff. And it's amazing what we carry in our systems unless we clear it out. So a lot of this work is helping us clear that collective unconscious stuck ickiness that we carry around that keeps, that creates illness. It creates a stuckness. So we're opening up and reconnecting to these places and clearing them out and getting to experience, well, who am I when I'm clearer? Who am I when I'm more connected? So right hand, right foot, sorry, left hand, left foot, or whichever side you're on, doesn't really matter, either side. Pull that arm against the leg, so let it lift the sternum up again. Big breath, let the breath support the buoyancy. We lift the foot. Again, without twisting the ankle, we bring the foot a little closer. If you can get a thumb on the pad of your big toe, can you tap the big toe, the thumb with the big toe, just to move it a little? It's waking up these little muscles. Now, keep pushing the big toe into the thumb without moving. Push that left foot to the right. At the same time, fill the ribs, shrug the shoulders, lift the belly. Breathe 5. Breathe 4. Keep pressing for 3, for 2, for 1, and then release. Perfect. And then we change. Change. We're nearly there. Okay. Take your time. Don't lift the foot initially. Just let the body relax. Nice deep breath. Hand pressing or pulling against the foot. We're looking for that length in the front body. Throat open. We'll lift the foot. Little swing toward us. Can the other hand reach? Again, let's just little articulation of the big toe. These are important muscles that just fall asleep after years of being in shoes and trapped and stuck. We're waking them up. Continue the pressure of the big toe and the thumb. Just sustain that. And again, pressing that foot toward the left, the right foot pressing into the hands. Breathe 5. Deep breath, shrug shoulders, lift the belly, lift the heart. Dignified sense in the upper body for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1, and then release, and then release, and then release. And then we just sit cross-legged if that's comfortable. And if it's not, because we're going to sit now for about 10 minutes, if it's not comfortable, please feel free to sit in a chair, or it doesn't matter. Okay? Whatever way you're sitting, we're going to lean over on the left side, so we can do a little work with the right leg. We hold the inner thigh and the buttock. Yeah, whatever way you can get those parts on the right side. Engage the leg, so feel the tone underneath the hands. Twist your inner thigh down, pull your buttock up. Twist your inner thigh down, pull your buttock up, and then release that back down. And then even before you do the other side, notice the two sides. So you twist the inner thigh down, you pull the buttock up. It's what we call an inner rotation, and it moves the femur bone in the hip deeper and wider. And a sense of almost you've dropped a little on that side. Do the same on the other side. So you got to kind of lean, lift the side we're working on, a little inner thigh buttock. You might have to kind of work the hand on the bum a little. Engage, twist the inner thigh down, pull the buttock up, and then release that. Okay. Rest the hands on the thighs. Index finger and the thumb gently connecting. Feel into whether you want to turn the palms down or you prefer to turn them up. So try both of those, and whichever one kind of feels right, go with that one. Close the eyes. Let your belly relax. Bring your attention to your breath. Stay close to your breath. And then can you begin to, again, comfortably deepen the breath? Breathing through the nose if it's available. Slow, deep, steady breath. And bringing that comfortable pause at the top of the inhalation. And can you also bring a pause at the end of the exhalation? Stay with your breath. Stay with your breath. Long, deep, pausing. Stay with the breath. So let the breath just come back to its natural rhythm. And if you can keep your eyes closed as we transition, do that. If not, it doesn't matter. And we're going to come to lying on our backs. Yeah, we're going to come onto our backs. Take your time getting comfortable. If it's comfortable to have the legs extended, do that with the feet wider than the hips. And also allows some space between the arms and the torso, with the palms facing up or in toward you. And then as you get comfortable on your back, even here, if you were to press the back of the head a little bit more firmly into the floor and just kind of shrug the shoulders away from the hips toward the ears, and then let everything drop down. Just find as comfortable a position here as you can. And then if we were to take 3 really deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. So particularly as you exhale, you invite every part of you to melt into the mat, into the floor. Stay close to your breath, even here. without moving, be aware of your breath. Stay close to your breath. And then could you take some deeper breaths, moving your fingers, your toes, just feeling this physical structure, this container. If you want to stretch in any way, do that. When you're ready, bending the knees, roll to the side. Get comfortable here in the pause. Just be close to the breath again. Slowly make your way back to sitting. When you get there, we'll close the eyes again. We'll notice our breath. We'll feel into the foundation. We'll let ourselves from that anchored, rooted place rise in whatever way is available in our seat to sit up. So we're going to do a little bit of chanting. And this chant today is actually a chant Deepak Chopra put out. Om Shrim Aim, Om Shrim Aim, Om Shrim Aim. And it means I am the infinite source of creativity and inspiration. Om Shrim Aim. Om Shrim Aim. So we'll say it a few rounds and then we'll get into some chanting around it. Om Shrim Aim. 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 And as we continue to chant, don't worry if it distorts or changes a little, that's perfect. Om Shrim Aim. Om Shrim Aim. Om Shrim Aim. Om Shrim Aim. Aim. Om Shri 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 Aim. Three more. Om Shri Aim. Om Shri Aim. Om Shri Aim. Notice how quiet the space has become. And bring the hands then together in front of the heart. Our practice is simply a way of reminding ourselves to look a little deeper within ourselves, so that our journey through the world can be enriched, that we can use this depth, this quality of spacious awareness that is inherent to us. May our practice remind us of our innate worthiness. May it remind us that there is nothing lacking, that we are full, we are complete. And may that ring through us. And we'll take our hands to touch our forehead, and then in front of the lips, and then back to the heart. And to ourselves, to each other, we'll bow. Namaste. Good work, guys. So I picked a tarot while we were doing Shavasana, and actually I picked out a card and I thought, I haven't shuffled, and I shuffled them up and I picked again and it was the same card. So the card is Thunder. And here we go. So the essence of this card: legends speak of great thunder. Legends speak of great thunder begins. Legend speaks of great thunder beings who live in the sky and call for your attention with great occurrences are meant to happen in the world. When great occurrences are meant to happen in the world. They warn when tensions in a situation are called upon to be released. Their presence in your reading reminds you of the dramatic moments in life that change everything, both awesome and frightening when thunder arrives. It is also a wake-up call, one that you will not forget soon. And the invitation of the card. When thunder comes in your reading, it refers to a big dramatic change that feels like a herd of wild bison on the run. You feel it right through your bones, and you know that you are powerless to influence whatever events have been set in motion. This is a time to be prepared for anything. Your life is an adventure, and wonderful opportunities are arriving now. The trick is to learn to run with them. Qualities that you'll need now more than ever are flexibility, dexterity, and a willingness to experience it all without just detracting from where or in what form opportunity will come. Your destiny is arriving. Be ready. Thank you very much, guys. So I hope you have a wonderful evening. I'll get this up either this evening or tomorrow and send you the link to it. So you'll have the practice for the week if you want to do it again. And I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And for those of you who tried to tune in to, we've moved the weekly, the Wednesday and the Sunday class to YouTube, and we had a bit of technical issues, so it'll be working fine for Sunday morning for anybody who's doing that practice. And hope you have a lovely evening. All right.